2004, we began our Toronto Dialogue series. This is how we did our convening. We would bring together the leadership of both the public, the philanthropic, and the private sector to come together to come up with innovative solutions to those issues raised in Toronto's Vital Signs Report. Under each issue area, we would come up with a different group and a different approach to make sure we had the most impactful way of addressing those issues.
There's a lot of individuals and groups doing a lot of great things in the city, and I think the biggest obstacle towards moving any issue forward is getting people to work together. There's a lot of silo activism happening.
Some of the partners don't think about everybody who could be there because we come out of this tradition of rivalry and competition, and so sometimes you don't open the door wide enough to get others around the table.
I think we spend a lot of time in Toronto naval gazing, thinking about what we do without looking at some new ideas, and I think by bringing in people from other countries we can get some ideas of what's working elsewhere and think about how they could work here.
A strong presence of an organization in a neighborhood or a community can change the dynamics within that neighborhood, no question about that. But to make an impact on the population level, to make an impact in society, to change the fundamentals of what we're dealing with, cannot be done with one organization. It has to be done in collaboration.
The magic ingredient was having an independent organization that didn't have a vested interest, didn't have an axe to grind, just an organization that had identified a need through the Vital Signs Report and said, how can we deal with this? Where do we start? Where do we get going? So I think that was what broke the logjam.
So what does the TCF do to make these things happen? And their role as facilitators, bringing the public side, private side, us on consulting, design side, obviously clear the funding side, bringing the money, but bringing all of these things together.
One of the things that have really impressed me about this whole process was how quickly the parties came together in a mutual agreement on how this could work. I never once in the whole time we were involved with this felt that we were dealing with insurmountable barriers or we were dealing with entrenched interests that were not going to be cooperative or want to play in the game. So in that sense it was extremely gratifying how quickly we were able to move forward.
But that the model in and of itself suggests that you can break through and have a breakthrough moment on an issue that is almost seen as insolvable through the kind of technique that was used by the foundation and by the partners that were around the table.
One of the things about being in the community organizations is you could spend all your life going to meetings and talking about stuff and never actually doing anything about it. They were invited to be part of the community safety panel, but the foundation actually said, we're going to actually do something about this. We're going to try to gather some other organizations together and actually make something happen.
It was a group that was willing to embrace concepts that a lot of other organizations and previous governments of all three political stripes, quite frankly, just weren't willing to embrace.
If you could bottle that momentum builder, you can do anything.
It's quite interesting because often when you bring different stakeholders together, whether they be from tenant organizations or landlord organizations, you end up with conflict. Everybody crystallized, or if you will, they kind of focused on that idea and set aside sort of their own particular interests. In fact, what they realized was that everybody had a mutual interest as it related to this proposal.
The timing was terrific. I mean, it sounds like a weird thing to say at a time that was also so, as I said earlier, so filled with grief and sadness, and it was very scary. I mean, there was just this enormous number of guns and loss of life that was very, very upsetting. But at the same time, there was a kind of a resolution that there was no time to waste and action needed to be taken.
People get entrenched over time with particular positions which may not actually reflect what the reality of today is. And so I think it's constantly important to continue to sort of review the environment that we're working in and living in and being open to new solutions. And that's where the magic occurs.
There was tremendous willingness to partner, to bring whatever resources people had, whether it was expertise around programming, whether it was contact with funders, whether it was relationships with school boards. I mean, people were really prepared to use what they had, what connections, what capacity, what resources they had to create something that was kind of bigger than all of us.
The Toronto Community Foundation was very open to that, and then open to the idea that we could actually bring something unpredicted, that we had another skill that they weren't as aware of, that we said, you know, we could add this to the program and enhance it. In fact, they modified the program in order to accommodate that contribution that we felt we could make.
Now I know, here we are, 2009 going to 2010, the mayor is a very strong supporter of housing allowances. So we brought a lot of people along and changed a lot of conventional thinking.
Well, I guess I would call it breakthrough thinking and breakthrough action.